Hey, everybody, welcome back to Alfonso Speaks and welcome back to more great content. Today is this very special day. It's our first ever episode of Throwback Thursday. That's right. Every Thursday, we're going to be bringing a throwback trial or throwback true crime something. And today it's John Wayne Gacy. Are you familiar with John Wayne Gacy? You should be. The clown killer, the one who killed about 33 people, and that's only the ones that are confirmed. If you haven't done so already, make sure you go check out a documentary or something about John Wayne Gacy. The stuff that I can't show on here because I'll get copyrighted, but very interesting, very infamous serial killer. He abused his power in order to manipulate young men and manipulate the public at the same time to get away with the crimes that he was committing. And today we're going to take a look at a interview, the sit down interview he did with Robert Ressler. This is after he was tried, convicted, and ultimately sentenced to death for his crimes. So this is after all of his crimes have been committed. He's in prison and he's doing a jail interview. And we're going to check out a lot of these different jail interviews. One notably that I'm really looking forward to that I have coming up is the Iceman mafia killer. If you guys have heard of him before, um, he was a hitman for the mob and he had bodies. I mean, a lot of them. But for right now, we're just going to get into the John Wayne Gacy um, interview here. It's about a half hour long. Um, and it's something I think you guys will find interesting. And I'm excited for it. So without further ado, let's get started. Like, share, subscribe. Follow me on my social medias at Alfonso McCree Jr. on Instagram and Alfonso Speaks on TikTok. I'm thinking about putting some exclusive content on those platforms for you guys. And if you haven't done so already, make sure that you're a member, because what I'm also going to start doing is making my content available to members immediately once it's uploaded. Little do you guys know, I upload like 5 videos at a time, but they're all scheduled for, I try to drop them every other day. But if you're a member, you can watch all of them at the same time before everybody else does. So just something to keep in mind. Get yourself a membership. All right, here we go. The John Wayne Gacy sit down interview. Let's get into it.
My question would be to you right off the bat is why, after so many years of silence, never having a media interview? And people have said that you have given them interviews in years
Well, that's
past.
hogwash.
Yeah.
That's strictly hogwash.
So we're saying
I'm
today,
constantly told that I'm misquoted constantly, saying that I said this and I said that, and it's not happened.
so it's pretty well established on this. This is the first time you're speaking publicly about your case.
Right.
Yeah.
I've always felt that my attorneys were handling it, and they said to keep a low profile and stay away from it. And in light of all that has been used against me in the media, they've created this fantasy monster image, and it's been going on for the last 12 years. And I've ever had no comment, and I had no need to talk to the media for the simple reason that they were looking for sensationalism and they were looking for the monster.
When you say fantasy monster image, what are you referring to by that?
Well, the idea that I'm a homosexual thrill killer and all that garbage, and they painted this image of me that like I strolled down the streets and stalked young boys and slaughtered them. Hell, if
Yeah, it's funny because you didn't have to do that. In fact, you lured them into places that they thought were safe by offering them jobs and alcohol and money, and you use that in order to trap these young boys. You'll notice during this interview, and I have seen this before on a previous occasion, you'll notice he's very, very manipulative, like most serial killers are. But he tries to spin this in a way like he didn't do anything. And it's super weird because the bodies were found in the crawl space of his home. That's where he was burying all these people that he was murdering. There have been people who have gotten away from encounters with him that have spoken out. about it. And they confirm he is who we think he is. And so it's interesting to see somebody kind of go to the grave with a maintaining their innocence when the whole world knows the evidence is overwhelming that you're not innocent. I always find that interesting with characters like this.
You can see my schedule, my work schedule. You know damn well that I was never out there.
Well, you were indicted, convicted, and sentenced on 33 counts of homicide. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Let's fix that.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, insofar as sound goes, if I'm down with my head, does that hurt your sound quality?
No, it's okay. Just don't try not to move around too much. Please.
If you're breaking the song, give him a cue.
I ain't going to break into any song. We'll go into the lead-in as you know, you were at 1978.
Yeah.
You were
This gentleman right here to the left, John Wayne Gacy's right, is I believe one of the reporters that you will find on the documentary that's on Peacock. So if you guys have Peacock, look at the John Wayne Gacy documentary on that one. That one's really well done. And I believe there's another one right now on Netflix. Yes, on Netflix. And it's about John Wayne Gacy again, but it goes deeper into like the tapes. The Peacock one goes more into everything before his arrest. The one on Netflix goes into things before his arrest, but it focuses on his words and interviews afterwards.
present.
Yeah. Okay, that's the way I'd like to start, and I'd like to kind of
Well,
go
what do
through
you got there? Let's see your list.
Well, I just like to go through the generalities, maybe talk about the background of the thing, the original case.
Bleeping of the language, I will watch the language.
Yeah, he's gonna try. John does tend to slip into.
Well, I call it as I see it. And some people can't understand that. All right, so whenever the hell they're ready.
Now, give me kind of just an overview of the business that you eventually established, the construction work. Is this self-taught then, the construction and maintenance work?
I started doing painting, and then I started doing wallpapering and decorating. And inside of 3 years, PDM, which is painting, decorating, and maintenance, was doing $1 million a year.
And that was.
And I only had 4 employees.
And that was the business you were in at the time of the arrest.
That's correct. PDM in 1974 became a corporation, and then I owned PDM Contractors Corporation. I owned PDM Plumbing, PDM Concrete, and PDM Decorating.
Mm-hmm.
And then I branched off with another partner into Rafco Construction.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, we were doing strictly drugstores.
Mm-hmm. John? Now, they did not search the house at that time or look through the house?
No. Mm-hmm. According afterwards, they're claiming that they came to the front door of the house and knocked on the door and that I hid from them.
Why didn't you let them in at that time when they were knocking at the front door?
There was no way I could have heard them. I was way in the back of the house, in the rec room, on the telephone. When they finally walked around the side of the house, I could look out the picture window, see them there, because I was on the phone, and they could see me clearly too, sitting on the couch on the telephone, because I was talking to my sister in regards to a death in our family. So I told her that I would call her back, got up, went to the door, and he introduced himself as cousin Zach and Piquel, and they wanted to come in and talk to me about Robert Peast. And I had told him that I had not had any conversation with him, but I said, if you want to talk to me.
Robert Peast, remember that name. That's the most, I don't want to say the most important victim of John Wayne Gacy, but Robert Peast was the straw that broke the camel's back on his entire killing spree, I'll say. Robert Peast was his last recorded victim. We really don't know. He could have killed a lot more, but Robert Peast was the one where when he went missing, all the attention was confirmed in John Wayne Gacy's direction because Robert was working at a pharmacy or a drugstore of some kind, and John Wayne Gacy had come in there, and there were witnesses there that saw John Wayne Gacy there. Robert at some point says, "Hey, I'm going to go talk to this guy about a job, about a contracting job." And so his coworker, I believe it was, and they were young at the time, they're teenagers. So his coworker uh sees him go out, but he never comes back. His mother, Robert's mother, comes in there because it's her birthday. They're supposed to be going out later that night, which is just heartbreaking. He, she hasn't heard from him, and she doesn't know where he is. So she's telling, his coworker, hey, when he comes back, just tell him blah 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 blah, meet me here or whatever, or tell him I'm waiting for him here or whatever. He never shows back up. Nobody ever sees him again. The last person that he's seen with is John Wayne Gacy. And they had already been kind of looking at John Wayne Gacy for a while. The Plains Police Department and just different people out in the community were starting to get real suspicious of him. And so they started tailing him and following him. And, at some point they end up at his house. They ask to come in, whatever. And they get the smell of the of what's buried in the crawl space. And that's when they knew. And next thing you know, John Wayne Gacy was getting arrested. The killing spree was over, and all of those bodies that he had buried under his house were exhumed.
Then come back there. And they wanted me to come down to the police station. Okay, well, I didn't have time because I was doing work for the county and stuff like that. Went into the police station finally on the next day. This was after Kozenzak and Pakel were at the house. They had asked me to come in and give me an account of my whereabouts. The thing of it is that on that same day, they held me there for 9 hours. And while holding me there for 9 hours, they executed a search warrant. The first search warrant was executed on December 13th. That is the search warrant where they claimed they went through the house looking for Robert Peace. It was written up to be looking for Robert Peace, and Robert Peace wasn't there.
The police had focused on you as being the suspect and the missing boy, and eventually...
well, they were following me around.
Following you?
Yeah, constantly. And on December 13th, I had made a statement to the police department, and from that date forward, they had me under surveillance. The only trouble is that the Mickey Mouse way they were doing it, they had 2 cars following me day and night. And they had trouble keeping up with me, so I used to go out to the car in the morning and tell them where I was going, so in case I got lost. Because at the time I was doing 5...
So he mentions they had trouble keeping up with him, the police that were tailing him. That's because it was well documented that he would start driving erratically just to throw them off, so that they couldn't follow him. So he's making it seem like he was trying to make it easier for them. He was just trying to make it hard for them because he knew they were on his tail. He knew that they knew something was up.
Construction jobs in 5 parts of the city. So in essence, I was all over the place. But this was like Keystone Cops trying to follow me around.
There's that one photograph of you and Rosalind Carter.
Yeah, Mrs. Rosalind Carter. Well, the Secret Service tries to cover it up and said, well, we don't know how he got into the picture. Hell, I was in charge of the reception. I had to stand at the door and let them know which politicians were allowed in and which ones weren't. The thing of it is, but the Secret Service wanted to cover up and make it sound like that I had no business there. I was cleared, and I was with the Secret Service at the time and setting up the parade route and everything, because I used to set up the parades for the Polish Alliance. And then for 3 years in a row, I had set up the parades to run. And, that's a big feat, getting 20,000 Polish people to go in one direction at one time. The subdivision where the Summerdale house is located is built on a clay field. And when it rained, the rain would come down from both ends and would flood from one house to the other. The crawl space would fill up with water. In 1976, I asked a landscaper, I said, what do you do for that sour odor of clay? And he said, spread white lime. Just regular masonry lime. On the ground, he said it'll sweeten up the clay and you won't have that odor. It's sort of like what charcoal does in filtering things. That's why the lime was spread in the crawl space.
How much lime was spread down there eventually?
I think 700 or 800 pounds of it. The first search warrant was executed on December 13th. However, what is strange is you had 20 trained officers that came into that house, supposedly went down in the crawl space, crawled around. There was no mounds of dirt, there was no odor, there was no nothing. I never feared anybody going down that crawl space. The clowning was relaxation for me. I enjoyed entertaining kids. Like some people are, they unwind in different ways, either by going out drinking or that. I could put on clown makeup and I was relaxed. And I enjoyed doing it. It was only twice a month that I did it.
Yeah, this was not used then for a lure to draw kids to you
No, we would visit different hospitals and entertain the children there. And we didn't entertain them with handcuffs or anything like that. All we used was balloon animals and small toys and stuff like that. But we also did parades. And in the summertime, like on 4th of July, I used to be in 4 parades in one day. I've always told people when I got into clown makeup, I regressed into childhood. It was fun being a clown because you could be yourself or just let yourself go and act a fool. You could be slapstick and funny and have a good time. That's why I always enjoyed clowning. Clowning has taken a bad name because of what they've used in my case.
On a historical note, your Iowa conviction goes back to what year was that?
1968.
68. And what was, just in a nutshell, without getting in too deeply, what was the basis of the Iowa conviction?
The basis of it was a sodomy conviction. It's the only thing I ever was sentenced to was a sodomy conviction. They're claiming that the state representative's son, who was on the other party, he claims that he was sexually abused by me. And in essence, he was blackmailing me for it. Now, what it boiled down to was oral copulation. And it was consensual. I moved to Waterloo, Iowa. I was honored as Man of the Year because besides working full-time, I also, I was a chaplain for the JCs and also ran the membership campaign. And of course, we used pornography. We had stag shows, and that's how we increased the membership from 150 to 400 members in that JC chapter. We were dealing with porno films, and we had a girl set up in a room in that. So it was, the thing to do. We were boosting membership from it. So nobody said a word about it.
So you're getting a little bit of an idea of the foundational aspects of how he used that area to gain influence, to gain power. I mean, he's admitting it right there that that's one of the strategies he used even with official organizations. I mean, these are political organizations that he's using these tactics with. And this is the same tactics that he was using with his victims. You might hear the word stag again for us younger folks. That is basically the same thing as an adult film. It's what they called those films back in the day.
At the time, this young individual made the charge at me. He was blackmailing me. He wanted more and more money. He said, "Look, I gave you a blowjob. Now you got to pay for this." I said, "Go see your father." He wasn't getting along with his father, but they came down heavy on me.
How about your dad, John? You had mentioned that you could never really please him, that he had talked of you in
and I did not
derogatory
I didn't hate my dad either.
But you did have a hard upbringing with him, did you not?
My dad came from the old country, limited education, but he was a good provider and with strong will and strong views. He was also an alcoholic, sorry to say.
Was he abusive? Did he strike out at you?
When he drank, he was almost like a different person. My dad struck all of his children all the time. Yeah.
When you paroled out, where did you establish your residency?
I was under the Interstate Compact. I was paroled back to Illinois.
Mm-hmm. And you went to Springfield first, did you not?
No. Directly to Chicago because I had a job working at Bruno's restaurant. That was a requirement of Interstate Compact transfer. You had to have a job and a place to stay. I moved in with my mother. In the condominium, my dad had just passed away. So I lived with my mother and worked at Bruno's as a chef. When I first got out on parole, for the next 2 years, I stayed with Bruno's restaurant. Mm-hmm. And I worked for them. But on the side, I used to go in at 4 a.m. and get off at 2:00 in the afternoon. And to me, that was too short of a day, not enough work. So I started doing odd jobs painting. And I found that on the weekends, the afternoons and the weekends, I was making more money than I was as a chef, even though I was getting 12 something an hour. I borrowed $600 from my mother, and through odd jobs, I left the chef business. I owned PDM Contractors. PDM was able to work 52 weeks out of the year, while most construction companies shut down for the winter. I never had time to shut down because I had them on a waiting list. Our business was growing at that rapid rate. The Summerdale house was rented to PDM Contractors, and like the living room was the front office. The dining room of that house was like a boardroom because it was an 8 by 10-foot table with big captain's chairs because we use it as a boardroom for meetings.
John, the media has called you a homosexual killer. What is your position on homosexuality?
I have nothing against it. I'm an outspoken liberal. I don't care for the labeling. I don't care for any labeling for that fact.
Do you claim
no,
homosexuality?
No, I would definitely not be homosexual. I have nothing against what they do, and I don't deny that I've engaged in sex with males, but that I'm bisexual.
You're bisexual?
Right. My preference is women, and I've been married enough times and have children, and I see nothing wrong with it. My dad had conservative values. If you're out after midnight, you're up to no good. My dad did not believe it. If you're out after dark and you didn't leave a phone number, you were up to no good. So I think that's why I tended to go that way more, just to be the opposite of him. I was married twice, and just because I didn't get along in the marriages, my marriages went down the drain only because I was a workaholic, working 7 days a week in that. There was 12 keys out to the house.
Okay.
12 sets of keys?
12.
So that's not true. One of his marriages went down the drain because of that case that he was speaking about earlier, the sodomy case out in Iowa. That's why one of his wives divorced him. I think that was his first wife. He had a couple of kids with that wife. And I believe he said that his wife came to him and said, I have to divorce you, or my dad's going to cut me off, or something like that. I guess her dad was still giving her, money, and he had brought shame to the whole family with what he had done. And she was like, yeah, if I stay with you, my dad's going to cut me off. Like, and I just can't have that. And so it was divorce. So that's a lie. He lies a lot. And that's one of them that we just caught him in.
Sets of keys. Anybody working for PDM Contractors had a set of keys for the house. So you could come and go when you wanted. And of course, my neighbors would keep me informed. They would inform me, God, while you were out of town, they must have been partying all night there.
Who is Rossi?
Michael Rossi was an employee of PDM.
And how old was he at the time? Who was he?
He was 20 years old. Insofar as being bisexual, if I wanted to engage in sex, Rossi and Cram were willing to go down on me anytime I wanted to, providing they were given stuff.
Now, when the search warrants were effected in your case, they did find an awful lot in the crawl space of your home, did they not?
Well, yeah, I had offered to sell him the house because I thought there was nothing down in the crawl space.
Yeah.
I had never had any qualms about him going down in the crawl space.
Wow.
He's talking about the crawl space that he buried bodies in. He's acting as if he just was so shocked that there were bodies there. You put them there. And he knows that he put them there. But again, he does a lot of gaslighting. A lot of gaslighting.
How many bodies were actually located on the property, and where?
To my understanding, there was a total of 29 bodies or 28 bodies.
28 human beings. Just pause and think about that for a second. 28 human beings found in your crawl space, and you're acting as if you just had no idea that there were any bodies down there. What do you mean? Look, I could almost give somebody a pass if there had been one body in their crawl space and they're like, well, I didn't kill this person. I had no idea that there was a body in my crawl space. Okay, that warrants an investigation to see if you're actually telling the truth about that. I mean, it's still your crawl space, so we're going to be suspicious of you. But at least in that case, I could see somebody, I don't know, maybe you went on vacation, somebody killed somebody, and then they just buried that person in your crawl space and you had no idea. Oh, okay. Okay. You know, maybe that could be true. What cannot be true is that you didn't know 28 bodies were buried in your crawl space. How stupid do you think everybody around you is? Please, somebody make this make sense. Please.
Were found on the property. 26, 27 of them under the house.
And the rest?
One was under the driveway, one was under the garage. So that makes a total of 29.
Okay.
Under the driveway and under the garage. This is a man who owned this house. You're telling me you had no idea that somebody just came and buried a body in your garage or under your driveway. You had no idea that that was happening. Come on, guys.
Now, from the standpoint of the arrest, when you were arrested in this matter,
It snowballed.
It snowballed. Okay, what was the date of that arrest? Do you recall?
December 22nd, 1978 is when I was arrested. The rope trick is not the way I've described the rope trick is it's nothing more than a tourniquet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now we're getting into where he's talking about one of the tactics that he would use to trap his victims. Calls it the rope trick.
And I had explained it to them. I even demonstrated it to them. It would cut off the air.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to kill somebody, you just put it on their neck and twist it 3 times or 4 times or whatever till the person stopped moving.
And you took him where?
Out on the I-55 bridge.
And that's where. How was he then taken from the car and placed into the river?
Just opened up the trunk and dumped it in.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
There was no big special deal on it. I couldn't get down in the crawl space that easy, and then I had to bum back to begin with. You got to crawl on your belly to move around in the crawl space. There is no way that I could have done any of the digging down there.
So the crazy part is he would a couple of his victims, he would actually have them do work in the crawl space. Like that's how sick and twisted this dude was.
I had enough trouble just getting down there. Gregory Godsick, let's see, number 4. Gregory Godsick had come to work for me.
And he's looking through this book like he's doing research on the victims. Like, bro, you killed them. You should remember all the details of why they're not here anymore, what they looked like, all of that stuff. Like, he's looking through this book of evidence and discovery as if he's never seen this before. Like he's studying, like the professor just told him, hey, turn to chapter 4. That's what he's acting like.
In according to this, 1976. He came to us through Taft High School through a program. He had worked for Republic Lumber Company, and then he came to work for us. And I'm not the monster image that's been portrayed of me. And the only way you can make a monster image is to make it look like I stalked the streets and picked up altar boys off the street. You know, they want to make them look like innocent babes in the woods, and I was swatting them like flies. My encounters were always by happen chance. If you pull up at a stoplight and there's somebody standing there waiting for a bus, if you give them a ride, and if you ask them whether, do you get in anything or you want drugs or something like that? That's how it happened. Always happen chance encounter.
That's the scariest part. And that's how he picked his victims. Just people that he thought were just out on their own. This is how serial killers usually go about their business, though. They pick people that they don't think anybody's going to care about. So if you see somebody out in a vulnerable position, that's odds are that's who you're going to go for. And he just admitted to that.
A number of 3 or 4 psychiatrists, psychologists interviewed.
I had 13 of them. There was 6 for the defense and 7 for the state.
Yeah. What was the
state
position
doctor
of the defense psychiatrists? What did they feel your problem was? What did they come up with from the standpoint of
what the hell is it? God, I can't remember offhand. Borderline personality. Antisocial behavior. I don't see how anybody can be antisocial when you were involved with the public as much as I was.
How about the multiple personality issue?
Oh, the multiple personality came out of Dr. Reifman and Hartman. These two clowns from the Cook County there. They came to see me the first time. I said, "Do you want to talk to John Wayne Gacy, the politician, the clown, the family man, or the businessman?" The next day, I see it in the newspaper. Gacy has 4 personalities. I think one of the headlines said I was a homosexual mass murderer, confessed mass murder. There is no confession, and we offered. I offered his.
What do you mean there is no he just confessed to a crime earlier in this interview. Again, this is what I'm talking about, the gaslighting. And he can't even tell a consistent story the entire time either. That's the crazy part. He's talking about there was never a confession. Well, if there wasn't before, there is now after this interview.
Much as $10,000 if you can produce a confession where I confess to a crime. The time that I was interrogated by the police officers, there was no stenographer, there was no tape recording, there was no videotaping. Nothing was ever taken down, yet everywhere you'll see there's 5 confessions by John Wayne Gacy. Now, if I confessed to something, then why wasn't it videotaped? Why wasn't it recorded? Why wasn't a stenographer brought in, had it written up, and have me sign it? There is no confessions in this case. What I did not know about this insanity defense is that in the state of Illinois, when you plead not guilty by reason of insanity, you're saying that you committed the crime, but that you were insane at the time.
That's kind of common sense. I'm not gonna lie. When you plead not guilty by reason of insanity, yeah, that's you saying I did it. Like for somebody who tries to appear as smart as he tried to appear, wasn't that smart.
Time. So it's not a question of innocent or guilt anymore. What they're trying to do is your whole trial now becomes an insanity trial where you're to decide whether a person is sane or insane.
John, how about Tim McCoy, the last one of the 5 that you say you have personal knowledge of?
Tim McCoy, even though he's the last one, he's the first one.
He's the first one, actually.
Right.
The first of the 33.
Tim McCoy was the first one, and Tim McCoy's name wasn't put on him until 1988. Prior to that, he was known as Unknown Number 9, and he was buried by me in the crawl space.
Guys, you can't make this up. You can't make this up. He was buried by me in the crawl space. That's what you just said, right? Rewind this video about 5-6 minutes and you'll find a point where he literally said, I couldn't even fit in the crawl space to do any digging in the crawl space. I mean, come on. Come on.
That's the only knowledge that I have of it.
What was the circumstances of that?
He was killed in the house in self-defense.
And who killed him then?
I stabbed him.
Yeah, and it was an issue of
Another confession. Wow.
self-defense. Why was he in the process of assaulting you, or what?
He was coming at me with a knife. I just took the knife away and twisted it in his hand, and that's what killed him.
So at that point, you yourself did bury him then in the crawl space.
Right, and if you notice, he's under concrete.
Did you bury any of the others in the crawl space?
No, I had nothing. I had no knowledge of them.
Yeah. Well, why is it that your first one is there, and then 20 some others are buried down there as well? Did somebody know that you had done this with the first one, to giving them an idea?
More than likely, when drinking and getting high with the others, yeah.
Admitting it to them. So you feel others then followed your suit in using this as a burial ground?
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Come on, man. Come on, man. Like, guys, can you believe we actually live in a world that has people like this in it? I mean, stay prayed up. It doesn't have to be a scary experience. Just stay prayed up. But at the same time, it's mind-boggling. It's absolutely mind-boggling.
Just want to highlight on John Zick. They want to make such an issue over John Zick and his disappearance. I think he was killed for his car, personally.
And your personal knowledge of the Zick case then is
my personal knowledge of the Zick case is that I had come home and Zick and Rossi were at the house. I had a few drinks. I went to bed. When I woke up the next morning, Rossi was sleeping on the couch and Zick was dead on the floor. I went about my own business and he was gone.
So we're just supposed to believe the people just magically drop dead like flies in your house and you have nothing to do with it. And then you have nothing to do with the fact that they end up buried into your crawl space. And you didn't call the police when you found that gentleman dead on your living room floor, even though you supposedly had nothing to do with it. Nobody believed him, and I think that was the good part. I mean, obviously, he got away with a lot, but again, after the Robert Peace thing, like nobody believed anything he had to say anymore. Nothing like this. This interview is just like Robert Ressler is not believing anything that John Wayne Gacy is saying. He's just again, he's just interacting with a serial killer to see like how are you gonna move in this situation? What are you gonna say? What are you gonna do?
Later on,
And where did he go? Where did he end up?
I assumed he ended up in the crawl space.
Did you see him being transported down there?
No, wasn't present. Didn't do the transporting.
But when he was dead on the floor?
He was dead on the floor. Yes.
And did you have
In the
conversation
hallway.
with anybody about that?
No. In other words, I just kept my mouth shut because I didn't want to get involved.
Because I didn't want to get involved with a murder that took place in my house. What are we talking about? Yes, give me that thumbs up. What are we talking about? What are we talking about?
My idea was to just stay out of it.
John, let's step back to your childhood. What was your state of health as a child?
At the age of 10, I was told I had a enlarged bottleneck heart. Okay, and so I had a tendency to pass out a lot.
How about childhood illnesses? Did you have accidents rather? Any sort of
I was hit with
injuries or accidents?
When I went to the other vocational school, when I first went to the vocational school, I got hit with a park swing in the side of the head, caused a mastocyte.
At what age was that? Approximately
14, I believe.
Okay, so now I see what he's trying to do is get into like what could have caused you to be so messed up in the head. Was it this swing hitting you in the head? It's got to be something because there's no way you're just like something has to be wrong with you. Something has to be wrong with you. And you know what? Here's the thing, like it's one of two things. It's either he's a gaslighter, like I think he is, or maybe he really did have multiple personality disorder where um there's people who actually suffer from that, and it's a really terrifying thing because they actually have different personalities that exist in their head, and they bring out different traits and different actions. Like there's actually been studies on that. I feel so terrible for those people because it's uncontrollable for them. Like they'll have a normal kind of personality like I'm displaying right now. Then they'll have one that's super aggressive. And then they'll have one that's like childlike, where they revert back into like a 8, 9-year-old kid. And then they'll have one that's like a murderous psychopath. And then they'll have one that's really bipolar. But like, and they can't control it. And then they all talk to each other. You know, it's been described as well by some people who suffer from that as like a million voices in their head. And I feel so terrible for those people. I feel so terrible for them because it's uncontrollable. But this isn't that. You can tell by his speech, his language that he's very coherent. He's intelligent, he's manipulative. Um he knows exactly who he is and the things that he's doing, but he's attempting to gaslight you into believing that he does not know what you're talking about. And it's really unfortunate. It reminds me of the Darrell Brooks trial where Judge Durrell was giving her sentencing remarks and she was saying, I've actually been in the courtroom with people that are schizophrenic, people that do bad things because they weren't able to control themselves. They weren't able to control what was going on with them. And it's a really sad thing to witness them doing bad things to people that they love just because they have this terrible mental illness that makes them do erratic things that they can't explain. This ain't that. This is just a manipulative monster who took the lives of 33 people.
Got hit with a swing? Were you out unconscious?
Yeah, I was taken to a medical clinic. That was at the time, that's when I started seeing that I had epilepsy.
Did you have any episodes of
Seizures?
Seizures?
Yes,
Things of that?
seizures were, according to the doctor, they claimed that when I have an epileptic seizure, I had 800 times my own strength, or 800 pounds of strength.
Had you ever been sexually abused by anybody?
At the age of 9, there was a contractor.
Building contractor?
Building a house next door, and he used to pick me up and take me for rides, and always wanted to show me wrestling holds with always putting my head in between his legs. But at the time, I did not look at it as sexual. He was showing me wrestling holds where my head was always constantly pinned between his legs or under his legs. I was 19 when I ran away, and that was in 61. I went to Las Vegas for 3 months. Took my car and left.
Yeah.
I worked for Palm Mortuary, being the night man, picking up bodies at the hospitals and stuff for them. I worked as a night man only. I did have nothing to do with the bodies. All this talk that I slept with the dead ones or had sex with dead bodies, there is no truth to any of that.
You did live in the mortuary.
I lived in the mortuary, yes, but not in the embalming room. I mean, they make it sound like, I slept in the crypts with them. And I never climbed into a coffin or anything like that. That is so damn ridiculous. It's the same thing. The contention is that I slept.
I mean, is it that ridiculous? You're kind of a weirdo. We don't know what you did and didn't do. I'm just going to assume that you did everything that you're being accused of.
All night with Robert Peace. If you want to say I slept in the same house with a dead body, okay, fine, I'll buy that. But in the same room, no. And besides, the dead won't bother you. It's the living you got to worry about.
That's a fire quote. That's a fire quote, John Wayne Gacy. Respect.
I felt things were going to work out because I knew that I didn't do the killing, and I thought it would come out in the trial. But Amaranthi, with this insanity defense, and again, you can call it my ignorance of the law. And it's like I explained in a letter to Chief Justice William Clark. The evidence based is on the theory that the more sensational a case is, the more crazier it sounds, the insanity defense would work. And I still think it was stupid. I think that they did a disservice to me, and they did a disservice to the victims. And you know what people don't understand is I feel I was wrongfully convicted for 33 murders, and it was only because of sensationalism and ego. The Des Plaines police did a sloppy investigation. This is, it may not be the correct way of wording it, but the thing of it is that they had other suspects, and they had tunnel vision in to say, it's Gacy's house, it's easier to put everything on Gacy.
Yeah, your paintings have improved over the years. I think we've seen some...
I think I've learned from each one of them.
Hey.
I guess it's the same reason why I relate to Michelangelo, because he was a workaholic, and Leonardo da Vinci. People always ask me who my favorite artists are and why. And I did not know that.
People always ask him that.
Michelangelo.
Who in God's name is asking him that?
Michelangelo was homosexual. It doesn't make no difference to me. He was a workaholic. He was a sculptor. He was a painter and did a lot of other things. Da Vinci was an inventor in that. And of course, in my life, I've done painting, decorating, wallpapering. I've done mural work. You name it. As you know, I'm a bug about record keeping. Mm-hmm. All of my business records confirmed where I was, who I was with, what hotel I stayed at, what meals I ate. Everything was in the files. And all of those files on December 29th of 1978 were confiscated by the Des Plaines Police Department. And those files there alone could have proven that I wasn't in Illinois when 16 of these murders, when they finally set the dates as to when these murders occurred.
Now, you did say that you never painted yourself as an innocent babe in the woods that you.
We're going over the same thing.
Yeah,
We're not going to go into
basically no. But I mean, the point is if you feel that you're not covering up your part of the crimes, but at the same time you open up the thought that others were involved, would you be willing to cooperate with law enforcement people today to avail, say, the materials that you have amassed and to more or less pursue, if in fact there are others that are on the streets that have been involved in these murders? Would you be willing to cooperate and to assist to pursue that to the ends of bringing others to justice? Would you be willing to do that?
I got no qualms about that, but what I don't understand is why wasn't it done to begin with, Bob? The thing of it is, they want you to believe that I and I alone committed these murders, and I had nothing to do with the murders of anyone.
If anybody.
I had nothing to do with the murders of anyone. You literally already admitted to 2 of them just in this interview. Like, guys, come on. Come on. It's like the gaslighting. Gat Somebody trying to gaslight you is very frustrating. Like, when you know that somebody's lying and they sitting up there and lying to your face with all the confidence in the world, it is so disrespectful, man. It is like a slap in the face.
Was involved, and how many people are we talking about beside yourself?
We believe there was 4 people involved, and that would be Michael Rossi, David Cram, Philip Paskey. Here we've got a Philip Paskey who had a newsletter going out of the Cook County Jail, and here he is involved with a guy named John Norman, and John Norman was running Boys for Hire. They were making snuff films with young boys. To me, they were pimping them off. They were selling them. There was a crossover when we checked into John Norman's background that he goes all the way back to the early 70s, involved in. He ran the Norman Foundation. He run Epic International and the Odyssey Foundation out of Dallas, Texas. And these were organizations where wealthy men could hire young boys for sexual weekends. Male prostitution.
Had you ever met Norman? You ever had any contact with Norman?
I have yet to see a current picture of him, and therefore I'd had to say no. Phil Paskey may have been with him at one time or another because, see, again, I came home from out of town at times, and Phil Paskey would be at the house drinking beer or something like that. David Cram is the one that brought Phil Paskey in, and because his Cram, when he didn't want to do nothing, he got a hold of this guy and said, well, this guy can get you somebody for sex. I have a lot of things that I've forgotten that I can't remember. For instance, I can go back to my childhood and stuff and I still remember that, but yet I can go into the 70s and there are a lot of things I can't remember. The same thing with the victims. I've looked at all of, I don't know if you notice here, we got pictures of every one of the victims here, and believe it or not, for the last 12 years, I've studied these photos of the victims. And there is no, we have a shot of all of the victims together here. And when you look over at the photos, I have no recollection of any of them. Never met them.
I have no recollection of any of them. Never met them. Yet we just talked about at least one of them in this book that you said by name, you said where they died, and you knew where they were buried. I have had enough. All right. John Wayne Gacy, everybody. John Wayne Gacy. The clown killer, the infamous Chicago serial killer. That's who the guy is. A gaslighter, manipulative, psychotic. And he's dead and gone now. Put to death by lethal injection. But yeah, he's a very, very curious case. And again, if you haven't had the chance to do so, definitely go check out those documentaries. I don't get paid for promotion of those documentaries, but I enjoyed them, and I want you guys to take a look at it too if that's something that you want to do. They were very, very well done. The interviews were well done. The story was told very well. And I love the documentaries now. They do a good job of highlighting the victims and not just sensationalizing the serial killer, but like really highlighting the victims, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of pain that's caused in these situations by these serial killers to real people and real families, and that should not be ignored. So I hope you guys enjoyed our very first episode of Throwback Thursday. More and more is on the way, including the Iceman. Can't wait for that one. That one's going to be awesome. We're also going to be doing some stuff with the Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez. So make sure you guys stay tuned for all of that. And I will see you guys in another video. Like, share, subscribe, turn the bell on for notifications. Follow me on my social medias at Alfonso McCree Jr. on Instagram, at Alfonso Speaks on TikTok. And make sure you guys get a membership, because if you have a membership, you will have access to all videos as soon as they are uploaded, not when they're scheduled to premiere. So take it easy, guys. I will see you guys in the next one. Stay safe, stay blessed. Deuces.